Nästa talare är en självutnämnd digitalnörd. Och tycker att det här ämnet som nästa panel kommer handla om pratas det alldeles för lite om. För att det finns enormt mycket potential inom framtiden, inom programmatiska köp och kommersiell tv. Managing Director för Dentsu Aegis, välkomna Kristina Juhlin.
Thank you, Daniel. Hi, everyone. Really nice to see you today. And I have my magnificent panel with me today. Welcome up. Great. So after our panel debate, we will go on break. But you don't want to miss this, so sit tight for about 17 minutes together with our panel. Great, so we have Austin Scott, Head of Video Market Development for EMEA at Xandr. Very welcome. Stephen Byrne, MD Nordics at SmartClip. We have Selman, MD UK Nordics for Magnite, and Jonas Söderqvist, Regional Director, Northern Europe, Pubmatic.
Yes.
Let's start with what is CTV? Julie, do you want to begin?
Yeah, sure. So CTV really is a TV screen connected to the internet. So I think that's the most basic explanation. But it represents also a much larger opportunity, obviously. And it's really the phenomenon we've seen, the shift from watching linear TV to connected TVs, where you can watch kind of anything, anytime you like. And it represents a huge opportunity for advertising as well, which we'll be talking about today.
What are the benefits of CTV? Austin?
I mean, I like to think about it from just a personal sense too. Like, I was streaming on my phone last night. So while CTV is very much thought of as that big screen, it's also a lot about premium content, you know, editorial, episodic. And that's a bit also the shift in what we hear is a lot of mobile impressions too are becoming more and more popular, which then the benefits I think we all know are around better targeting, better data, and the leaned-in audience is a big phrase.
Jonas, do you want to?
Yeah,
do you agree?
Adding on what Austin said, that we are used to buy a linear TV as a share of voice product, and now we can add on another TV-like product on more accuracy and data points and so forth. So it's
Ad Exchanger has called CTV the ad tech's latest gold rush. Would you agree to this, Stephen?
I think, as you saw with Daniel's presentation, right, there's a huge opportunity in across the world, but I think this hyperbole is really coming from the US market, where the situation is very different. Of course, with cord cutting is happening at a much greater extent, and people are watching AVOD in a much higher degree than they are in Europe. If you look at the European market, I think it's quite clear that in the individual countries, it's actually the broadcasters that make up the largest share of the CTV opportunity. Then of course there's international streaming services and other CTV manufacturers, OEMs, that are offering their content. So I think it's a much more piecemeal opportunity in Europe. And I think for buyers, it's something that they are probably thinking CTV is actually a bit of a myth, to be honest, right now in some of the smaller countries. So I think we're really at an immature stage, but it's certainly growing. And yeah, I think this is where our job in the industry is to try and kind of bring this inventory together to make it scalable for buyers to actually transact upon.
Julie, what are you saying? Latest gold rush?
Yeah, I agree and slightly disagree in the sense that I think there is massive opportunity already now. We have, and depending on the country obviously you're in, but there's the sort of pure players like Pluto, Rakuten, Samsung, where there's definitely scale to find, and broadcasters are slower to adopt. But I think if and when they're starting to see the value, and the buyers need to start pushing as well, because they're starting to find that programmatic buying obviously is more efficient for them, so they will be able to push hopefully the broadcasters towards that as well. But yeah, it's I don't know, gold rush has sort of a negative connotation to it as well, which I think we should see it as a positive.
Yeah. As the American, yeah, like
Sorry.
Programmatic was going to save the world, and I think now that it's been quite a while since that initial beginning, coming into the broadcaster space and seeing how many broadcasters, I guess, in Sweden particularly, are already sort of streamed and advanced, that's kind of where some of the technological underpinnings sort of come ahead with this, like, we're going to change the world. And it's like, well, there's a lot more to do before that. You know, it's not as switch over, you know, an easy switch.
I would say that in our region, the SVOD has been really exploding, and that's there. The biggest growth is there, and also on a global scale, yes, you could argue the gold rush, but I think in the Nordic region we really need to have the AVOD product to explode, even so the advertisers can take advantage of that product.
But what is needed to grow then, would you say?
It's a lot of stuff. I think that the same things that we are doing in display and mobile, like audience addressability, we need to figure out how to even better use the universal IDs, the data points. I also think that we need to collaborate more over the different platforms. Today we are seeing a lot of walled gardens that work with this product and the broadcasters, but that's not enough in our region. We need more publishers being innovating in this area.
Julie, would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. But I also wanted to add to that from the point of the consumer. I think that's very important as well. There's a perception perhaps that CTV is sort of, you know, millennials are watching connected TV, but, you know, the general population is not there yet. And actually, this is not true. At Magnite, we do a lot of research around this topic, especially around the audience and the behavior of the audience. And we just actually published something called CTVs for Everyone, not only in the advertising industry, but also in the general population. And one of the sort of key takeaways is really that the CTV opportunity is massive, and it really represents the whole demographic, as is not commonly the perception. So actually linear TV is much more the older population, and CTV is kind of across all demographics. So I think that's a huge opportunity, and that will also help drive forward the technical implications we need to work on and everything else.
How will the tech companies provide value and efficiency to broadcasters, Stephen?
I think we're seeing like a trend towards alliances between broadcasters who are coming together to recognize that this sort of the need to provide a product at scale to the market is needed. So I think we'll see innovations on that side where broadcasters will come together on platforms, and there'll be common buying tools, common storefronts for products, co-selling, and I think that's an area of innovation that will happen. And then I think that allows the opportunity for broadcasters' first-party data to be pooled in a harmonious way and then offered to the buy side in a kind of a single product that they actually will be interested in transacting on, because that will offer an alternative to the third-party cookie, which will no longer be there. So I think that's an innovation opportunity that will come in the coming 12 to 18 months for sure.
What do you think, Austin, what the tech companies will provide?
Hopefully a lot of listening, you know. The needs around, you know, addressable are pretty clear. Standardization is very important. A lot of times it comes from the buy side, though, like buy side wanting the efficiencies, or a major global brand looking for the ROI down to the media plan level, and that might help really create the momentum to make the tech and the content more standardized so that it could be, you know, a little bit more automated.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And in regard of standardization and how to measure CTV, will we have a global standard? Will it be a tech company that provides that? Do you have a thought on that?
I mean, a lot of broadcasters around the globe are trying to kind of come up with, you know, their own measurement or use their own data to create, you know, a C-flight or a brand view. So it's kind of this element of who's going to win, who's going to agree on what to use. You know, there have been some standards that have been really popular and everybody's comfortable with those, but now you're kind of getting into this, you know, shifted and combined and needing a currency. So that's kind of what it's like, why I think it's more like buy-side led a little bit, or at least buy-side agreed. And that's kind of where collaboration is probably going to be the most important word this year.
Julie, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think as a tech company, our first and foremost, I guess, goal is to help broadcasters and other types of publishers to feel comfortable to make that shift to programmatic, to have that almost comparable, easy way of how they're selling right now, from linear to connected TV, and also have that same user experience. So I think it's up to us, but it's up to the larger industry as well. And yeah, measurement is key, and there's no one solution for it yet.
Jonas, what do you think?
I think that we need a common currency first of all to just get it to grow really, really big. But then I also think that it's going to be a local variation of a global standard. I think we see it already, especially in Australia, where they have Vox that are working with some really local adjustments for the global standards. So I would guess that we see the same development here in the Nordics.
Stephen, do you think who is the winner?
The winner.
Yeah.
I think that if the big challenge here is we have to be careful that there are a lot of big tech companies who are trying to get into this space, right? And they are building. They have a platform. They have an operating system. They have a content offering, and there's broadcasters and streaming services who still are living and dying on this revenue, right? So I think we need to kind of make sure that they get a share of this, and we don't allow the ad revenue to be funneled off into that, and to build a sustainable ecosystem, right, locally, because that's absolutely what we need to do if we want to continue to fund local content, local language, Swedish content in the Swedish market.
So moving forward, what innovation can we expect innovation within CTV?
Yes.
Yeah.
Simple answer. I think that one innovation I would say must be, is that broaden the spectrum from broadcasters to other types of publishers that can use this CTV product and move forward, so they can add another product line to their normal day-to-day business. So I think that we will see let's say normal publishers have the ability to use CTV-like products moving forward. Maybe alliances with a local publisher with a Chromecast product or whatever. So we can see that we can evolve this kind of business moving forward.
Yeah, we have talked about first-party data before. What will the ability to use first-party data when it comes to CTV? Can you answer that, Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an opportunity first-party data on the broadcaster side or the service provider side, and then there's obviously the advertiser side. So I think there's going to need tools on both sides to allow that to transact, and there'll be kind of a way of overlaying that targeting. But like I said before, the opportunity in Europe probably isn't big enough to start talking about micro-targeting users right now. I think we need to think about this as a reach product as much as possible first and foremost, and I think those opportunities will come over time. But I think we've formed an alliance with Amobi, and I think there's an opportunity on the DSP side to provide tools for advertisers to provide data, and then on the broadcaster side for the ad server SSP to provide an opportunity to bring the first-party data into the mix, and that way you kind of keep this Chinese wall between the two, and then there's no concerns of data being mixed or being lost or leakage. And I think that's what we'll see kind of evolving over time.
The trends moving forward, Julie.
There's loads of trends in all directions. I think one of the trends, kind of related to the previous question, is contextual. In general, it's a big trend, obviously, but I think definitely in CTV as well. If you think about the big screen, it's we're used to targeting one person and their behavior, but actually the big screen, maybe there's 5 people watching, there's 2 people watching. It's harder to tell and it's harder to measure. So contextual will be very important, and what is the content actually that you're targeting your ad against? So that will be very important, I think. And another trend, more about innovation, I think that's just super interesting, is the TV manufacturers. So you saw Sky a couple of weeks ago, they came out with their own TV, which has everything already sort of programmed into it. And I think that'll be another trend as well, which is really, yeah, exciting as well.
Yeah, it truly is. Austin?
A lot of it to me is around better content or better ads or better ad experiences that are maybe more out of the box or, you know, interactive or engaging. And I think the sort of the biggest area that people complain about too is content discovery, like finding something to watch. People spend like 45 minutes on average a day and then fall asleep on their couch. Like, it's definitely, you know, the way to kind of grow CTV and grow eyeballs and interest seems to be making content easier to discover. Then that might open up more interest in AVOD because they don't want to sign up for a new service just for a show they're interested in. And then getting a great ad experience that's relevant to you.
I think one other trend that we'll see is SVOD bleeding into AVOD with hybrid services. So I think obviously we saw with the pandemic that SVOD has really pushed consumption of CTV in the kind of the content perspective. And AVOD is a little bit behind that. And there's obviously challenges for AVOD providers to get the right content and to be able to capture mindshare and time within the living room. So I think we'll see that some of the smaller SVOD services will start to experiment with hybrid services, more like the Spotify model that we've all been using here in Sweden. And I think that will definitely drive a lot of advertising opportunities going forward.
Great. Our time is running out, but I have one last question since we have a lot of buyers in the audience. What do you believe should be on the advertisers' agenda within CTV the upcoming years? What do they need to prioritize and think of? Austin, let's start.
I mean, I remember seeing H&M on a panel, and they were very much like with it on having an AV strategy and not just thinking about channels of delivery as a strategy. So in some ways, they probably have a bit of a sense of what they want. And so it's kind of maybe that idea of how do they really leverage their data? How do they really work with broadcasters to match that data? How do then they forecast against that data to, you know, cut the right deals? And I think that, you know, leveraging their buying power will help with those things around standardization and kind of where they need to get to manage an ROI for a marketer that's at a really strong scale of point of sale. So I think it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah. Steven?
I think use CTV as a place to experiment now. You know, obviously linear TV is a great place to achieve reach and scale at a low price, but with CTV you can try more targeting opportunities with the data that we talked about, and I think it's definitely a channel for experimentation. There's other formats that you can try, not just video, right? You have display formats which can provide, if you're an SVOD service provider and you can actually place a display ad on an OEM's manufacturer and get a direct, you know, attribution to that. That's really powerful for you. So I think there's lots of opportunities ahead with these things, and I think combining it is difficult, right? Because they're very different targetability options.
Julie?
Yeah, it's similar to that. I think we see this already in the UK a lot, and I'm not sure how it is here in Sweden, but I think in the agencies, there's definitely a huge divide between the sort of TV buying team and then the digital team. And, you know, like in the past, you had like a mobile team, and I think those teams definitely need to communicate more, if not work together as one. CTV is not an add-on. It's part of your overall strategy. And if it lives in this team or that team, it needs to be kind of part of the coherent strategy. And of course, there's different currencies and you measure it differently, but it needs to be part of the marketing mix, really. So,
thank you. Jonas?
Yeah, I would say two things. One, keep it simple. Don't complicate things. And if it looks like TV, treat it like TV.
That's good. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Tack.
Thank you, the panel, so much. And Kristina, just a quick summary. We're again a bit after, but one of the questions that occurs in my mind, like connected TV, it would make sense that the broadcasters would be a big part of that, since the overall demand today, at least, comes from them. When you look at them, they invest in R&D, obviously, but not in this field particularly. And it makes sense, right? Because as long as they've stayed out of tech, they managed to protect their revenues quite well in comparison to the ones that joined tech scene. So what would it take to make them interested in this?
I would assume, if it ain't broken, why fix it? So if the strategy today works, why should you invest money, time, technology in changing something that perhaps will give you less margins? It's too much of a risk, I would say, as long as the market works as it does right now.
Yeah.
And if you look at linear TV, we still have an increase in spend, inflation going up, and we still have viewers. It still works. Looking at linear TV is a really effective media.
Yeah, but without stepping on sensitive toes here, I mean, there is somewhat lagging in the digital battle of the streaming market, right?
Yeah.
So would connected TV be a possible way for them to catch up?
Definitely. And I think just because it works yesterday doesn't mean that it will work tomorrow. And you don't just shift, from one day to another. You should probably start it a couple of years ago to be sure when the shift happens that you have the technology in place, you have the content, the users and the needs beyond, linear TV. So if they haven't started, you better get going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just final question, what's your key takeaway from the panel?
I think we had a really, really good panel. This is so interesting, senior people. But I think that the measurement is really interesting, that we don't have an answer. No one has an answer. And I think that's so important to move forward even faster within CTV. So that's something I think we should continue to discuss and try to find, if not a local solution. Anyhow, I also think all the ideas on how to treat TV, if it is TV, as Jonas said, then treat it like TV. So I think that's good to think of as well.
Good. And a good thing that IAB exists so that we can fix this, right?
Yes.
Cool. Okay. Tack så mycket. Thank you.
Thank you.